Teresa, I even saw Vols fans scouting out, there is a river behind the shoe, and they're already like, can we take another goalpost to a river? Can we make this our river after potentially beating Ohio State? But
Won't that be a felony?
Well, they may have introduced a bill, but it hasn't.
If the flag planting is a felony, certainly Vols fans stealing, thievery, taking the goalposts and throwing them in the river might be up there. You know, of all the places that I wouldn't want to mess with at the moment, who are trying to like test their power, Ohio might be the one that stands out. But I'm curious from just the football perspective, Teresa. I have some Ohio State fans mad at me because of, again, oh God, another college football fan base is mad at me. Oh no. But this idea of, are the players into this game, like what are the vibes around this Ohio State team? Because they lost to Michigan. And it's not like this is the first time they've lost to Michigan under head coach Ryan Day. As CJ would remind you, it is the fourth straight time. And it feels like a large portion of the fans are certainly in a space where they're a little conflicted about even wanting Ohio State to win this game because they would like to move on from Ryan Day at this point. But how do you see Tennessee matching up against Ohio State, and what would be the biggest keys to you in them being able to get the upset, no matter what all the extracurricular stuff is off the field?
Well, I'm stunned at the line. It's just ridiculously way too high to me. Yes. And where I think the game is going to be decided is two simple things. Tennessee's defensive line, they've got depth, they can rotate. Ohio State's offensive line is decimated, okay? Their Remington Trophy award-winning center got hurt and hurt his Achilles November 23rd against Indiana, out for the season. That's why they couldn't run the ball up inside against Michigan, okay? So Tennessee is going to come in with a deep defensive line, able to rotate, keep guys fresh, and they've got a run game. You know what travels into cold weather games? Run game, defense, baby. I have talked about this with, somebody who, a former NFL coach, and he and I are of the same minds. Defense travels. And here's the thing. You mentioned the excitement level. The Tennessee Vols know what this means for this program. It means they've talked about it. They are excited. Yeah. Why? Because this means they've done what Josh Heupel told them they were coming to Tennessee to do, to build up this program to compete for titles. Ohio State, they won a title in 2014. They were last in the title game in 2020. This is their sixth playoff appearance. At a certain point, there is a little, and then you've got that rotating door with the transfer portal. You know, their quarterback just got there from Kansas State, okay? So you've got some guys that are hungry and new to this situation. But from the fan base, the reason why there could be an awful lot of orange there Saturday night is because, on UE, they're a little bored. They're ready for the big stage. Yes.
Great. God, you're just killing it today.
What can I say?
I do. I agree with you, Teresa. And I think one of the biggest things is Tennessee looks a lot like Michigan in some ways. And Ohio State does have, or has had, 3 weeks to prepare for this Tennessee and change things around this time around. But I'm not sure this team is built to play any differently right now if you're Ohio State. And the thing that I irked people with was, and you know when you make a point, but you say one thing just a little bit off, and then they really focus on that one thing. Yeah, exactly. So Ohio State and Michigan did not play in 2020, but I was trying to insinuate how Ryan Day has gone balls to the wall in revenge type opportunities, mostly following losses to Michigan and then coming into whatever playoff game, whatever postseason appearance, just unleashing hell on the opponent in the first game. In 2020, coming off of a loss to Clemson in, I believe, the Fiesta Bowl in 2019, then the next year was the giant Justin Fields game against Clemson. Then the year after that was the big Jackson Smith and Jigba game. The year after that was the Ohio State-Georgia game where they score 41 points. They lose to Georgia. Georgia goes on to win the championship. They've always had this bounce-back nature, but do they have that ability this year based on how they are constructed? I don't know. They haven't shown an ability to throw it enough to Jeremiah Smith to have him have a crazy game that leads them to a Rose Bowl appearance. That's where I struggle to get behind this Ohio State team, and I agree. I think the line is huge.
That the not having the willingness to put the ball out there to your receivers where your strength is as Ohio State against Michigan. That was a thing that really frustrated Ohio State fans. Like, hey, why do we have a $20 million roster with all of these studs on the outside if you aren't going to use them? If you're constantly, you brought it up, Teresa, the line is banged up. You're constantly trying to run the ball. You can't do that. Why not put it on the outside where this secondary has been suspect? The Michigan secondary has been suspect for most of the year, and their two best defensive backs were out for that game. Why not throw that out there? And I think that some of that was dictated to Ryan Day in the Ohio State offense, because Will Howard got popped in that game early on. He absolutely got hit hard and probably should not have played in that game, just recklessly speculating going forward. But he's a competitor. He's a fighter. It's Ohio State, Michigan. You're going to limp your ass onto that field until they carry you off, right? But in this game, against this defense that is better than Michigan's all around, maybe not the defensive line, but the entire defense is certainly better than Michigan's defense. And they've got a quarterback who people tell me, and Nico, can push the ball down the field. Certainly he can do it way better than what Michigan's quarterbacks were able to do on the season and in that game in particular. When you look at Nico, Teresa, what do you think he has to do? What does he have to be in order for Tennessee to come away with the road win in the playoff?
Well, he's got to connect with, his guys. I mean, Dante Thornton, and we saw that the last couple games. He had 4 touchdown passes. Against UTEP, not impressive. I think against Vanderbilt, it was impressive because, guys, let's not forget, they were down 14-0 because of, just the way that game started. And you talk about defense, Jamad McCoy, changed the tenor of that game with his pick in the end zone. Tennessee has taken the ball away at or near, either in the end zone or around the goal line 4 times this year. And, so it's like they've been an opportunistic defense. But Nico, I mean, think about it. This is going to be his 14th start all since January 1st. So he has been growing on the job, so to speak. And he's now had a couple of weeks of practice since the end of the Vanderbilt game. And he was probably at his best at Vanderbilt. Now, can he do that on the road? That's been the Vols' biggest problem this season. Their losses at Arkansas, a game they should not have lost, coming off of an open day, and then at Georgia between the hedges. And yes, Georgia is a giant monster that they're going to have to slay down there in Athens at some point to prove that they're truly back. But this is that opportunity where this is a young man who is confident. He's California Polynesian cool. And, and Josh Heupel has talked about him. He is a guy who mingles with everybody on the team. He is a leader, and he knows. And you know what he's also got to help ease this situation Saturday night? Dylan Sampson, the SEC's top running game. And, you've got that to fall back on. And, that Dante Thornton, I need to see just how healthy these receivers are because they were banged up at the end of the regular season. But if Nico's timing, it seems like, it's like he's throwing the ball all over the place this year. But he's also got a handful of connections of 50 yards or longer this year, among the best freshmen in the country at long passes. And a lot of those came toward the end of the season. So it feels like he's like dialing it in. Yeah. And I expect at least one that's the thing. If this is a low-scoring game in the cold, you only need one big completion to really break things open. And, Dylan Sampson, he's the speediest bowling ball of a running back I've seen in a while.
The Jessica Benson Show with C.J. Hurt, live every weekday at 8 a.m.